A nice segue into our next speaker, which is Richard Lamb from the Latitude Group, who is very much going to talk about how the digital world is transforming the world of retail, which I think is probably a natural follow-on from that last discussion. So, Richard, please take the stage.
Is this working? No.
Yeah, that'll be working.
Okay. Just so I can move around. But if I get too far away, then someone just shout at me. So, yeah, my name's Rick Lamb. I'm Head of Operations at Latitude Digital Marketing. The digital transformation of retail is quite a grand title for this. It's the sort of search engine marketing-driven transformation of retail. Don't all walk out. It is quite interesting. And we'll come on to search engine marketing touches a lot of different areas of retail. It's pretty central. John talked about the voice-driven, personal assistance-driven elements of search. This is the transactional elements of search, but hopefully I'll convey that it's very important, it's a very powerful tool for retailers of all sizes. Why should you listen to me? Apart from my fantastically great shoes, I've got a long background. Trying to stare down at them. I've got a long background in digital marketing. I actually trained as a journalist to begin with, and it was through putting ideas for an ad-funded sports newspaper to media agencies that I ended up looking at that and thinking, well, these people seem to walk into work in jeans at 9:30 eating donuts. How do I get into this? So I got into that, did a lot of press advertising, and then moved into digital. Worked a lot with people like O2, who are a big UK telco retailer. And we've did some really groundbreaking things with people called O2 Gurus, which are very similar to sort of Apple geniuses. So, wasn't that groundbreaking? A bit me too. And also worked with big UK retailers like Next, B&Q, Superdrug. And then I've moved on to a company called iProspect, you may have heard of, where we had centralized global accounts for Adidas and Burberry. So that's why you should listen to me. In context, search is really important, he said. That's because you've got a huge volume of searches going on every second, and it grows because it's not necessarily driven by rampant consumerism, because people are searching for more things because it's just native. It's native to me, and I'm 37, and I never actually used an email until I went to university, but then you've got kids now who use an email before they could write their own name. You've got 3.8 million searches per minute, which translates, how good's your maths, to 228 million searches an hour, 5.5 billion searches a day, 167 billion a month, and 2 trillion a year. Back in 2012, that was only 1.2 trillion. So you see that the growth of connected devices, the growth of just our inability to do anything without searching to prove that we were right. There's a British comedian called Frank Skinner who does a radio show, and here's a rule: you can only Google things you didn't know, not things you can't remember. It's a really, really good exercise, because what you'll rediscover is the ability to wake up in the middle of the night and go, remember it now. It's very satisfying, but the converse is, if you sit, as I did, for 2 days trying to remember the name of the lead singer of the band Saint Etienne, you'd end up Googling it anyway, because it will literally drive you insane. Get back on subject, Rick. Okay, search management in practice. So what does Latitude do? What do we do every day to improve search marketing efforts on behalf of our clients, to improve the efficiency? So quality is our responsibility. Talk earlier about ad blockers. Ad blockers makes me very sad. I entirely understand why people install them. It makes me sad because I'm a digital marketer and people are installing them because digital marketing is being done badly. It's being targeted badly. It's being personalized very badly. And it's being done based on a fairly shoddy set of KPIs that lead people to be able to present that something is working when actually, in a lot of cases, it's not having an effect. The reason I'm able to sleep at night is because I'm work with my teams to make sure that we are making a difference to people. We're doing things in a very defensible way. It's a good way of running a business as well. And the reason Google are very successful is because they've always understood, and they continue most of the time to understand, that they will be successful if when people come to their search engine and ask a question, they're presented with a set of answers from which you can, potential answers, from which you can find a satisfactory answer. So for personal assistants, they've got to the level of confidence where they can give you an answer, not a selection of things, and say, I know this is what you wanted when you asked me this question. But for transactional searches, it means they can present you with a selection of things that allows you to find what you want. For advertisers, that requires a great degree of sophistication if you don't just want to be presented with people who have the deepest pockets and who can eventually attribute a conversion, which, if search engine advertising had never come along, would be pornography and payday loans. Well, that's just targeting me. So what they did was come up with a thing called Quality Score. Quality Score has evolved over years. They give you a score out of 10 for each of your keywords, and it is calculated every time someone searches for something based on all sorts of different environmental factors that you may or may not be made aware of by Google. But as well as the environmental factors, it also takes into account all sorts of historical performance and contextual factors of the ad that you're presenting against the keyword, the landing page that you're then sending people onto when they click on your ad, the speed at which that loads, the relevancy of the content on the page to the ad to the keyword, all of these different things is then presented relative to all of the other advertisers in the auction. And if you're presenting a really, really relevant ad and a really, really relevant landing page and a great customer experience, then you will be rewarded with a high quality score, which brings down the amount that you have to pay to appear high in the auction. Dead good, very sophisticated, totally works. So what we do is to make sure that our advertisers are able to achieve a higher quality score. And we've got a very systematic approach to this. I'm quite chaotic in my life, as I'm sure you possibly noticed from my 5 minutes on stage. But this is a very, very systematic thing, and we've got a really good sort of tried and tested way of doing things. It doesn't help that literally every time I go on holiday, Google will make a major change that means I effectively need to learn my job again when I come back. They've just done it again. I just went to Fuerteventura. It was lovely, thank you. But we look at 5 different areas of paid search, and we'll come on to a specific example of how this has worked. So account structure. So you broadly structure the set of keywords that you have into a way that allows you to manage it well, a way that allows you to attribute budgets into the right places, so different categories. You're unlikely to have an infinite budget based on how many searches there are in your market. So making sure that we can put the money in the right place, making sure that we've got a universe of keywords that covers enough of people in your market and not too many, doesn't edge over into other categories that you're not relevant for. Constantly evolving ad copy to make it more relevant, to understand what are the triggers that will make someone click on your ad over someone else's ads, because that's going to help you to just outperform them in the market. Effectively, it's a really bad way of window dressing. But there's a great skill to, within about 130 characters, actually being able to say anything, let alone something that's more compelling than the next person. Proving which landing pages are best to send people to. I've worked with clients who, if they could, would send someone straight to having the product in their basket. That's not a good... If you walked into a shop and someone thrust something in your hand and pushed you to the till, you would throw it on the floor and walk out again. But you need to understand, and I've worked in retail in my background. My little sister owns a shop. You need to think about people as they come into your site as people who would walk into your shop, and think about how you would like to be treated. And then ad extensions, so the ability to add in all sorts of different extra pieces of context. So things like site links, if you're not that single-minded as a brand, so to come back to O2, when people searched for O2 6-7 years ago, you didn't know whether they wanted broadband, whether they were existing customer, whether they wanted an iPhone, whether they wanted prepay SIM, and you could just present one ad, which just sort of said, O2, we're better together. And so they brought in site link extensions, which allowed you to have a separate piece of the ad that talks about broadband, that sent people off to that section. And that was the start of it getting more sophisticated. You now have review extensions, location extensions, all sorts of different pieces that allow you to add rich context, create large amount of real estate on the page, and also get people to provide people with a better experience, which is what it all comes down to. I'm not going to show you a video of Al Pacino giving a rousing speech in Any Given Sunday. It's dead good, though, if you've not seen it. But he talks about fighting for the inches. So we're going into very, very detailed pieces, making incremental gains in all sorts of different places across thousands of keywords, so that they add up to yards. Because if you start to think about sort of tiny half% improvements on every time someone searches for a keyword, and you start to think about the volume of searches there are, it very, very quickly adds up to big changes for your business. That's all very well, Rick. Does it work in practice? So this rather spectacular graph shows two of the really important metrics. So quality score is a metric, but quality score isn't something you would really track over time. So they give you a score out of 10, but it's probably more likely effectively out of 1,000 you can't track it. So you track things that influence quality score and the reason why quality score is a good thing. So the things that influence it, predominantly things like click-through rates, so are people engaging with it more? And the metric that you want to be desirable out of it is to bring down the cost that you're having to pay for each click. So this is an example from an advertiser that we took on from their brand terms. So they're already getting 35-40% click-through rate, which is decent, onto their paid link. What we wanted to do was to make that work a bit harder, so we put in a new structure, and you can see that from the time that the new structure went in, very quickly you started to see a big jump. So you're going up to 50-55% engagement rate with the ad, and because of that, because the quality of that has improved, you then start to see the CPC coming down. So even though you're driving more clicks, you're actually not spending any more money, and that is a good thing, because people are more likely to convert if they're clicking on your brand term than if they're coming through SEO or if they're getting distracted by someone else. So it works. Hang on, Rick, it said there was a case study in here. Yes, there is a case study in here. It's for a company called Cycle Store, who are UK-based. They're based in Congleton in Cheshire, which is not far from where we are in Warrington in the northwest. Cycle Store came to us because they sort of hit a bit of a ceiling in their performance. They'd been doing it over a couple of years, and they were very strict. They spent a bit of time with the owner. He's a fantastic guy, very, very pragmatic. He's not got any ego about the fact that they need to have a presence and be advertising everywhere. He will advertise if he can drive a cost of sale that is profitable to him. And he will throw as much money as he can get his hands on to spend more, to get more sales in at that level. Dead simple. Why doesn't everyone do that? So we started working with them. And the first thing we did was we have a campaign audits tool. Fascinating, I'm sure you will agree. What it does is it digs very, very deep into an AdWords account and starts to look at the really, really important areas. So if you've got keywords of quality score 10, how much of your money is going on keywords with a really high quality score? How much is going on keywords with a really low quality score? What are your top keywords? How much are you spending on them? What's the CPA of them? How many active keywords have you got? How many of your keywords should be showing but aren't? Goes into great, great detail. So we looked at that just for traditional paid search, so the text ads, and also for shopping. Because if you think about retail, if you're doing anything with this, then Google Shopping has become a far, far, far greater thing. So even 2 or 3 years ago, you were starting to get some ads appearing on the right-hand side. And Google Shopping's been around for a long time, but it was previously a free listings. The reason they started to make it paid, apart from the fact that it makes some money, was because the quality of the information that was coming through from advertisers was rubbish. So they said, right, you've got to pay for it. Here's Google Merchant Center. This is how you send a feed in here, and this is how you then start to optimize it. So they've made it far, far more sophisticated, and it's given them more confidence to present it in far, far, far more auctions. So once we'd assessed where we thought the opportunities were sort of structurally with Cycle Store, we had a look at them as a business and what were their strengths, where were the areas that we were going to win. So we focused on a couple of things. We focused on high value, high conversion rate items. So we prioritised putting the limited budget that we had behind those items that were more likely to convert. That would then allow us, if we can make that convert a bit better and bring down the cost per sale of that, to then start to reinvest in the next layer. So filling the bucket up from the bottom. In the same way, we looked at analytics, we looked at remarketing. So we looked at new customers and existing customers, or people who've been to the site before and people who haven't been to the site before. You're far more likely to get a conversion from someone who's been to the site before. Most people, unless you're spectacularly decisive, don't search for an £800 bike, go on a website, buy it, job done. You would do a bit of research. That's part of the fun of shopping. I like shopping. I don't buy anything the first time. So, it's a bit of flirting needed. So recognising that that's part of how we do things. The other thing that we noticed was that cycling's quite up to the minute thing. There's a lot of new developments that new products did really well. So they sold really well. But the challenge was that it was taking time for Cycle Store to notify the agency to then write ads, produce keyword lists, and then get that live. So we worked with them and their feed provider to make sure that we were able to automatically create new ads every time a new product came into the feed. So strengths are looking for existing customers, focusing on high-value items, focusing on new items. And we worked with DoubleClick. So DoubleClick Search is a really, really good search tool. Other search tools are available. But certainly from a Google Shopping perspective, they all sit in the same building. DoubleClick is Google. They're very, very quick to market because they basically go and get the same engineers and go, "Hey mate, how can I get this to work?" And it works really well. So you can actually get the system to do a lot of the heavy lifting, particularly on things like Google Shopping, in terms of optimizing out the structure of a Google Shopping account, which is very different. So once we'd worked out a general principles of how we were going to do things, we'd put in place a roadmap for all of our clients. So you're probably looking at a quarterly roadmap because there's a lot that goes on in a quarter that gives you enough to do to sort of smash through a load of tasks, and then to start the next quarter when there will have been developments, when you'll have learnt from what you've done and what's worked and what's not worked. So making sure that we rolled out inventory management campaigns across everything, looking at things that are search that are more slightly contextual, so Gmail sponsored promotions and Yahoo Mail ads. Customer Match, which I'll come on to when we talk more generally, but Customer Match is similar to Facebook custom audiences, your ability to take your first-party data, upload your email addresses, hashed if you are worried about security, and to then target those people and only those people, and then, as of the last 6 months, to be able to target lookalikes of those people. So segmenting out your most valuable customers and finding people online when they search who look the most like your high-value customers. Dead good. We've been doing well in the UK, so we started to put a toe into international areas. Denmark was an obvious one for different reasons. We had Danish speakers in the office. They already had some reasonable amount of interest there. So we started to use that as a bit of an international test bed. A lot of A/B testings are constantly trying to prove, is this better than that? Can we make a quick incremental improvement by sending people here rather than there? And then the final part was to try and integrate with their overall marketing plan. They're not O2 or Next. They're not doing huge TV campaigns, but they're doing stuff around the Tour de France. What can we do in paid search to recognise that there's going to be more interest in that? If you ever look at the level of interest in golf clubs around the Masters weekend and things like that, there's phenomenal cultural-driven interest in people. Try going and booking a tennis court in the 2 weeks of Wimbledon. Try booking a tennis court in the 2 weeks before Wimbledon. Totally different experience. So making sure that we understand when their key periods are going to be, and even looking at things like weather-driven. So cycling is massively weather-driven. If the bank holiday over Easter is good weather, loads of people will be planning to go out cycling, or will go out and go, I don't know where my water bottle is. I need to buy one. If it's not, they won't. So understanding that you can actually trigger campaigns based on that sort of thing. Did it work? It worked fantastically. So we grew the number of clicks by 65% through things like improving relevance of ads. We increased the average order value because we were focusing on the best converting high-value products. We massively increased the revenue, so 81% increase in revenue. This is just in the UK. And we also increased the margin at which they're operating. So it was really key for them to understand, right, we're making a difference to the business by focusing on the right areas. So then we started to go internationally. I've checked that this doesn't feature any swastikas because it's sort of the Dad's Army version. But this is search for Brexit. So actually, good news about Brexit. What? the pound being devalued meant that cycles sold out of the UK were much cheaper than they were before. Great, so we've made hay. So we spent some time working with Cycle Store, focusing again on their brand, which was known to a limited degree, particularly among enthusiasts, but also on key shopping campaigns. So looking at about one brand campaign, 6 shopping campaigns, and rolling out. We've now got up to, yes, I know some of those aren't in Europe, okay. We've now got up to 20 different international campaigns just through 2016, just through expanding and testing and learning based on what we've done in the UK. Which led to a massive increase. So nearly 3 times as many impressions. You're going into areas that are slightly less relevant, so getting anywhere near as many clicks is brilliant. Well done us. 2.5 times as many clicks. We spent a lot more, as you would expect, but we delivered corresponding growth in sales, which is fantastically pleasing. And we understand that Better Never Stops. I don't know whether to use this anymore because it's a British cycling thing, and British cycling seems to be in the process of being horrendously discredited. But we have a quality assurance tool, so we mark our own homework. We have a separate team that does it. They're very popular, as you can imagine, where we run this tool across all of our accounts as they go, and quarterly we will report and give scores, a percentage score based on how good the account currently is. We share that with the clients, and then we go, okay, it'll be better next quarter. And the person who achieves the best scores over the year gets a prize. And the client was really, really pleased. So, as I said, they were in a difficult environment. We massively helped to improve the efficiency and then opened up new opportunities. We're now starting to look at SEO around a new site that they're doing, and also starting to look at things like programmatic display in a relevant way, in a transparent way, in a brand-safe way, in a way that you wouldn't want to block. So where next? There's an eConsultancy and Adobe have just done a big report on retail. It's worth a look if you've got want a little bit of bedtime reading. Some of the particular trigger points are things like mobile, things like cross-device, online to offline. So you start to think about online to store conversion. So Google have tirelessly mapped out what is everywhere, to the extent that the government should have more knowledge of this than they do just for online advertising. So if you're in a mall, say like the Trafford Centre or Westfield, where you might have Hollister on the ground floor and Reiss above it, Google will know based on your Android whether you are in Hollister or whether you're in Reiss. And they'll know based on you having been logged in when you searched that 2 weeks ago you searched for suit trousers, and you went on the Reiss website, and what they will then be able to do based on how long you were in Reiss is to attribute that conversion back to the fact that you searched in the first place. Fantastic. It means that you can actually start to join things up online and offline. They also do the same for cross-device, so if you spend a load of time logged in on your Android and then go to your desktop to convert, they will be able to recognize that and roll that into a total conversion column, so you don't misattribute a load of unconverted mobile activity as useless when it is not. And the third piece is location. So I think there's some other talks around specifically about strong location intent, but actually location of just where people are, where they live. So I worked with Dunhill a few years ago. So they sell belts that are about 300 quid. If someone searches for belts, the chance of them wanting to spend 300 quid on a belt are fairly slim. Slim belt. So what we that's terrible. So what we did was to look at where are the concentration of very, very wealthy people, and we just targeted those areas. And there was a conversion rate there that was much better, that made it palatable. And that was pre being able to then overlay things like different audiences. The other thing that people are particularly concerned about is customer experience, data-driven marketing. Customer experience is really, really interesting for search now, because I think that we all know that search can drive interest, engagement drives people to then go further down the funnel. If any of you are in selling, if you think about solution selling and sort of where you are, if you're just at the transactional stage, you're never going to build a relationship. So if you get people who interact with you a few times, you're more likely to build a long-term relationship. So if you can start to interact with people through paid search and get them to keep coming back to your site, that's a good thing. But if you go outside of a category like basketball boots and you start going into the cultural category of basketball, then you open up a whole new array of opportunities for engaging with people further up the funnel. One of the speakers earlier talked about there's not a lot of people doing cultural niche content very, very well. This is something we do well for SEO, because there's no point in sticking an ad in front of someone who searches for Michael Jordan to just try and sell them a shoe. You want to talk about Michael Jordan, you want to give them more information. It's not a great example. Believe it or not, in 3 weeks I'm running the London Marathon. I've done a lot of research on different races to do things like that, and I'm now at the point where I'm about to buy a new pair of running shoes. Someone could have engaged with me during this long process to then make it a very seamless thing of then to put some choice of shoes in front of me. Better example. And search can drive business insight as well. I think this is Zoella. She has, as I'm sure all the men in the room will know, ombre hair. Ombre hair was a trend which, if you followed it in the UK, you might not have seen it coming. So it suddenly jumped up. Everyone had ombre hair, looked like their hair had been dip-dyed. But if you'd looked in the US, that was the trend in the US. So you could have been on the ball, you could have understood that there were actually 2 previous peaks, I think Kardashian-driven, in interest in ombre hair. So if you're on the ball with these things, see where the cultural influences are coming from and start to follow those. The best example is onesies was a massive trend beforehand. If you'd have got your hands on a load of onesies on the basis of US searches, then you could have been very, very wealthy selling them in the UK. Speaking of people who are very, very wealthy, Amazon. So you start to look at something like Amazon. 2/3 of people who bought something online actually started their journey on Amazon, which is twice as many as did 2 or 3 years ago. They're not starting it on Google. So as much as Google advertising, Bing advertising is very powerful, Amazon introducing ad formats within search on Amazon, contextual ads, it's called Amazon Marketing Services, for a producer as opposed to a retailer, starts to become really, really powerful. So if you're a manufacturer, for other retailers, it starts to become terrifying, because Amazon are already very good because they're very good on price, and now they're making more money out of people coming to their sites than just selling them stuff. And it scales up and makes it really, really quite terrifying proposition for anyone who wants to compete with Amazon. So there is help at hand. There's a company called HookLogic who did so well that they've just been bought by Criteo. They run ads for large retailers on their sites. So Argos being one example, but in the States and across Europe, they're on all of these sites. So if you're browsing on these sites, you may see suggested products, sponsored products within some of the listings. It's basically shopper marketing. So it's the display on the end of the aisle that's got Pringles on offer, but online. It's very, very good. It's very, very trackable. If you're work with a lot of FMCG advertisers, if you're Mars, you're doing Maltesers TV advertising, some price promotion, you can understand how many people were buying Maltesers before and how promoting them in the confectionery section is having an impact. It then starts to go into totally new frontiers. So this is a Korean subway station where you can shop using QR codes on the subway. I don't know if anyone's actually used Amazon Dash or has got the buttons on their washing machine. I always think that looks like a pregnancy test. Incidental. But Google are sufficiently concerned about the activation side of it that they've bringing in their own elements of it. So Google Shopping Express, as always, starts in San Francisco, where you can get stuff delivered really quickly to try to compete. And then in the opposite space, Amazon are starting to use Google Shopping for the first time to compete in that space as well. And then the final piece is the sort of fulfillment side of it. So we've all got to the point before Christmas where you're sitting waiting for stuff to be delivered because you've done it last minute, and there's massive overload on Royal Mail. So obviously you've got things like drones. I think Amazon announced the other day that you can drive somewhere locally and they will unpack all of their stuff into your car in some kind of weird assignation. So that was a whistle-stop tour of all sorts of things related to paid search and specifically to CycleStore. I'll be happy to answer questions on the panel afterwards. Thank you very much.